on. And we have Deborah Smith here, our PCC representative. Would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our item 3 is approval of a board member remote participation. It's my understanding we don't have anybody on remotely today. Is that correct?
We do not.
Perfect. Would you like to go ahead and with roll call, please?
Leon Garcia,
Here.
Mark Joseph,
Here.
Donald Williams, Kevin Eisenberg,
Here.
Liz Alessio,
Present.
Scott Sedgley, Ryan Gregory,
Here.
Paul Doring,
Here.
Anna Shuto,
Here.
Margie Moeller, Robin McKee Camp,
Here.
and we do have an excused absence from Director Pedroza. We do have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you. Next is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda? And if not, do we have a motion and a second to approve it?
I move we approve the agenda.
Second,
Thank you.
Garcia.
Very good. We have a motion by Shuto, second by Garcia. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. That's unanimous. Item number 3 is public comment on the NVTA-TA. Do we have any public comment in chambers or online? Not seeing anybody standing up in chambers. Nobody online. Very good. Moving on to number 7, and that's chairpersons and board members update. I do not have an update. Do we have any board members with any update on this agenda? Nope. Moving to 8, executive director's update. Do we have an update? And we don't. So we're moving on to the consent agenda item. There's 3 items, 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3. Did anybody want to pull any of these items? And if not, does somebody have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Joseph.
Motion by Joseph,
Second, McKee.
second by McKee. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, that's unanimous. Moving on to regular agenda items, we have an action item, which is 10.1. This is compliance and performance audit report for the city of Napa and town of Yountville. And we will need to make a motion to accept and file the compliance and performance audit report for both the city of Napa and town of Yountville. And it looks like, Antonio, you're going to present this for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
So good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Antonio Honorado, and I am the Director of Finance for the Napa Valley Transportation Authority. So for this item, staff is asking the NVTA-TA board to accept and file the compliance and performance audits reports for the city of Napa and the town of Yountville. As the current board members know, and the newer board members may be aware of, the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee, the ITAC, commissions a non-financial compliance and project performance audit of 2 jurisdictions on a triennial basis. Basically, 2 jurisdictions are subject to a compliance and performance audits once every 3 years. For this round, it was the city of Napa and the town of Yountville. The compliance and performance audits are an expression of the auditor's opinion as to whether the recipients of Measure T funds complied with and performed its duties and responsibilities in accordance with the requirements within the Measure T ordinance. There are 8 areas of compliance for the audit, including timely submission of their project lists, project reporting, proper and separate record keeping of Measure T expenditures, adherence to proper signage for a project, and adherence to the 6.67% equivalent funds requirement, as well as a few others listed in the memo. I am pleased to report that both the city and the town has complied in all material respects with the compliance and performance audit requirements that are applicable to the city and town for their fiscal years ending June 30th, 2023 and 2022. Board members are able to view the attachments to the memo contained with the reports for the town and the city. So the next up in the rotation is the County of Napa and the City of St. Helena, and we look forward to working with them within the next few weeks. That concludes my report, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that report and for the great news. Do we have any questions? Yes. Are there any questions here from the board?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Mhm.
My question is the listing of the fiscal years also for 8, 9, and 10. Is that just when the MOE started and then we refer to the current years?
That is the calculation methodology for the maintenance of effort
Okay,
that the jurisdictions have to adhere to for their maintenance of effort requirement.
okay. I was curious why you went back so far. So thank you.
It's a fixed number of years.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any others. Do we have any public comment on this item? Not seeing any. Do we have a motion to approve? In a second?
So move Sedgley.
Motion by Sedgley,
Second, Joseph.
second by Joseph. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any nays? Nope, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Antonio. Item 10.2 is also an action item. This is the second reading and adoption of the Napa Valley Transportation Authority Tax Agency Ordinance number 2024-04, enacting the Napa Valley Transportation Improvement Act and Expenditure Plan, which authorizes pending voter approval, the imposition, division, distribution, and administration of a retail transaction and use tax under section 18000 at sequence of the California Public Utilities Code. Danielle Schmitz is going to present this. It's pages 29 to 80. Thank you, Danielle.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. Danielle Schmitz, presenting item 10.2, the second reading and adoption of the NVTA-TA Measure U ordinance. And I'm going to read the staff recommendation verbatim per our legal counsel. That the Napa Valley Transportation Authority Tax Agency Board approve the second reading and adoption of NVTA-TA ordinance number 2024-01, the Napa Valley Transportation Improvement Act and Expenditure Plan, Measure U, and adopt resolution 24-02 requesting the Napa County Board of Supervisors place NVTA-TA ordinance number 2024-01, the Napa Valley Transportation Improvement Act and Expenditure Plan on the November 5th, 2024 ballot for consideration by the electorate pursuant to Public Utilities Code sections 180201 and 180203. Again, this is over a year and a half effort of this agency working in tandem and lockstep with your jurisdictions to craft and refine the Measure T ordinance to work better for all the jurisdictions. Over the last year, we've had several different meetings with executive level staff as well as technical working staff of all the jurisdictions. We have had the expenditure plan approved by every jurisdiction on this body. And this would be the final step in approving the Measure U ordinance and the final step of this body to get it on the November 5th ballot. Ahead of once this body approves the second reading of the ordinance, the Board of Supervisors will be holding two hearings. The first reading will be on July 9th. And the second hearing for us calling a special NVTA-TA election would be on July 23rd, at which time after that, this ordinance will be consolidated under a resolution, consolidating any other special elections at the Board of Supervisors meeting on August 6th. This board had the first reading of the ordinance on May 22nd. And so again, there has been no substantive changes to the ordinance. We corrected two typos that were identified in the memo. And with that, we would ask the board to approve the second reading of the ordinance and adopt the resolution.
Thank you very much. I'm looking to see if we have any questions. I see we have a question from Vice Chair Joseph.
Yes, just a technical question. We could theoretically adopt or make one motion to both approve the second reading and put it on or request the board, or should it be two actions? Arguably doesn't matter, but.
You can do it as one action. It doesn't matter. If you prefer doing it as two, you may do it as two. So whatever the board's preference is.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Let me see if there's any public comment. Do we have any public comment in the chambers or online? No? Okay. let's go ahead and let's do roll call on this, please, Laura. Oh, yes. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion
you.
that.
I guess that's important. We need the motion. I'm excited.
I'll make a motion. We'll split it in two maybe. A motion to approve the second reading and adoption of NVTA-TA ordinance 2401, the Napa Valley Transportation Improvement Act and Expenditure Plan Measure U.
We have a motion by Joseph. Do we have a second?
Second, Garcia.
Second by Garcia. Roll call, please.
Leon Garcia, Mark Joseph,
Yes.
Kevin Eisenberg,
Yes.
Liz Alessio,
Yes.
Scott Sedgley, Ryan Gregory,
Yes.
Paul Doring,
Yes.
Anna Shuto, Margie Moeller,
Yes.
Robin McKee Camp,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to, and thank you, Danielle.
Oh, second.
So
we
the-
need
Oh, we have to do a
second
second
on
motion.
this.
Sorry.
If I can continue
I'll
hogging the
back on.
mic, I'll make a motion. We adopt resolution 2402, requesting the Napa County Board of Supervisors place NVTA-TA ordinance number 2401, the Napa Valley Transportation Improvement Act and Expenditure Plan on the November 5th, 2024 ballot for consideration by the electorate pursuant to Public Utilities Code sections 180201 and 180203.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Eisenberg. Very good. So we have a motion by Joseph, a second by Eisenberg. And let's go ahead and do roll call, please.
Yeah, mics are being funky.
Keeping things in suspense. Leon Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Joseph, Kevin Eisenberg,
Yes.
Liz Alessio,
Yes.
Scott Sedgley, Ryan Gregory,
Yes.
Paul Doring, Anna Shuto, Margie Moeller,
Yes.
Robin McKee Camp,
Yes.
motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Danielle. Item 11, future agenda items for the NVTA-TA. Are there any future agenda items being requested? Not seeing any. Okay. So we get to adjourn this meeting at 1:13 PM. The next regular meeting for this agency, or this meeting, is July 17th. Okay. Moving on to our general board meeting, the NVTA Board of Directors meeting. We will call this meeting to order at 1:13 PM. We know there's no remote participation. We've already conducted roll call. So we can move on and ask for the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes for the agenda? Not seeing any. Do we have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda.
Shuto made a motion to approve. Second by Doreen. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any nays? Okay, that passed unanimously. Item number 5 is public comment. Are there any members of the public who wish to make a comment at the NVTA board meeting? Not seeing any. Okay. Moving on to item 6, and this is chairperson's board members, MTC and ABAG update. I do not have any updates. Do we have any updates from board members before we go to MTC and ABAG? No? Okay. Do we have an ABAG update?
Well, you have the Resilience
Garcia?
State Route 37 in the packet. Today, came up at the combined MTC ABAC meeting. I think it was about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a highlight. A lot of progress being made. Certainly, of course, one of my concerns, and I voice it every now and then, the alternate route. See, when 37 is congested, eastbound traffic from Sonoma Ren gets Infineon Raceway, they go 121 to Highway 12, Highway 12 over to 29, and they come down through 29 to American Canyon. The affordability of houses now places the most crucial intersection at Highway 29 and 12 going east to Fairfield, Vacaville. And it's backed up almost at times, almost all the way to Sasko Junction. So that's just what I'm trying to impart on the Resilient Route 37 board is you have to look at the alternate route also. If you put a tolling booth in some place that is doesn't capture that, then you're going to have people using the alternate route. So you can increase the congestion.
last report was there are 72,000 cars a day going through that. route.
72,000 cars a day going
Yeah,
one
from
direction
50,000
or
about
each
60.
direction?
Yeah. Coming
Wow.
through, so it's a major, traffic point, you know, and, for the joint use of all the counties that are related to it. But, you know, interesting report. Certainly the, wetlands restoration is a very optimistic look at what can be done there. And certainly we have the wetlands edge in American Canyon. Side note, study revealed that, about 57,700 plus people a year last year came through to wetlands edge. So it's, quite a hit, and it's primarily, biggest user is American Canyon, of course, Vallejo's next, Napa County third, and then it's a whole page and pages of people from all over California and the United States.
Mhm.
So must be folks coming to visit the wine country as well, I would assume.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since Director Pedrosa is not here, he's attending an MTC meeting.
Yeah.
Executive Director Miller, do you have an update for
And he was
MTC?
hoping to be here early, but good news is that the BAFA meeting, they approved the $20 billion, the resolution to put the $20 billion general obligation bond for housing on the 9 Bay Area County ballots. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure that they're working with the County of Napa right now to add that to the ballot. Let's see. So that was my big update, and that meeting did not conclude until right before I walked down here. So he still has the MTC meeting. Hopefully he'll make it towards the end of this meeting, but we'll see. The June 26th commission meeting today, they approved an MOU for the Bay Conservation Development Commission Association, Bay Area the Association of Bay Area Governments in the Bay Area Air Quality Management District and MTC, an MOU to address threats of flooding and sea level rise. The agreement outlines planning, fund management, technical assistance, regulatory assignment, and a collaboration structure in order to address climate change and sea level rise that will impact housing, transportation infrastructure, and the ecology in the Bay Area. The June 12th programming allocations meeting, MTC released the Regional Measure 3 Safe Routes to Transit Bay Trail Guidelines. Those revenues flow, the application process is through the county transportation agency, so we will be working with jurisdictions on priorities that this body already approved. There is $150 million in total in Regional Measure 3 bridge tolls available for this program. The staff anticipates that there will be 2 to 3 calls for projects of between, $0 and $50 million, depending on what's available for the third cycle. And they are prioritizing a $25 million transformative project in each of those cycles. So the competition for these funds is going to be fierce, but I think we have some really good projects lined up. MTC held a special meeting on June 12th to discuss the new steps for a future transportation measure. As you are probably all aware, Senator Scott Wiener, Bill 1031 is not moving forward this year. That was the bill that was intended to put a measure on the ballot in November 2026 for transportation, but primarily to support the transit systems in the region. The special commission meeting resulted in establishing a select committee, which will include commissioners from each of the 9 Bay Area counties, 7 interested organizations that are primarily unions and advocates, and 2 legislative representatives, Senator Wiener and Senator Wahab. God, there's ants everywhere. I don't know if everybody else is dealing with that in their house, but they're over here too. I was just thinking, Director Pedrosa is actually appointed to that body. In addition, MTC is forming a regional transportation measure executive group consisting of county transportation agencies and transit operators, and I have been appointed to that group.
Excellent.
So the groups are developing an approach to move forward, and I will talk a little bit about that in my executive director report. I mentioned the approval of the $20 billion general obligation bond. Also, in May, BAFA reported $28 million in loan authority under the Regional Early Action Planning Program. So those funds were distributed primarily in the Central Bay area, but I think we should keep an eye on them for potential for housing in the North Bay, just to balance out the interest of building new housing. Let's see. On the first meeting of the Transportation Revenue Measure Select Committee that I just mentioned occurred, and it was a pretty long meeting, and there was a lot of discussion from each of the members of that committee, talking about the specific needs in each of their counties and the desire to improve transit, also a desire to have a return to source and to balance in those challenges and approach to move forward. We will continue to update you on that. There's only going to be a total of 4 meetings, I think, of each group. So sometime between now and the end of the 4th meeting, hopefully we'll have a measure that can move forward in the legislature next year to be put on the ballot in 2026. That concludes my report.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions on that? Okay, very good. Moving on to executive director update. So you get to do it. Was that part of the executive director update, or it's okay?
I have a long executive director.
Okay, perfect. We're ready for you if you're
Sorry.
ready.
Yeah, thank you. We're just trying to address the ant situation.
That's odd. We don't have any over here. Somebody has sweets over there, so some candy or something.
Okay, I mentioned that I participated in the first Transportation Revenue Measure Executive Group. I think it was really clear that there is a lot of differing issues between transit operators and between counties. We have a lot of work to reconcile that. I think there's general acknowledgement that we need to address the fiscal cliff and what that's going to look like. MTC had some interesting slides as part of the select committee that showed that the recovery is actually tapering off. We were sort of on an incline and ridership was coming back, and they think that it's the slowdown is reflective of the first tranche of people coming back to work, and that has slowed down significantly. So it may be a little bit up and down, but eventually we will come back, but also a lot of discussion about how we're going to sustain that and what kinds of improvements we're going to need to put in place to make transit a more effective way of moving people. So we will continue to update you on that. I also attended the 4th Transit Transformation Task Force. As you'll recall, this is the statewide task force that I've been appointed to address the statewide level on mostly the, how we can make transit a more formidable way of moving people. This last meeting was a lot more encouraging than I would say the first 3 meetings were. And I think the direction of the committee now is reflecting some of the input that the task force members have provided the Cal State Transportation Agency staff. The key challenges that we focused on were connectivity, safety, and security. The task force focused on also transformative projects and priorities that improve transit performance. We received a really interesting presentation from San Francisco MTA about their Van Ness BRT project, and it showed how much more transit we can put on the street when we have priority lanes, and how more effective it is, and how we can move a lot more people for the same or less amount of money. We are always fighting the traffic like everybody else, and the difference between a person sitting in traffic and a bus sitting in traffic is that the costs associated with keeping the transit system at the same intervals it gets more and more expensive because of that. And so there has been a lot of discussion about creating priority corridors that just are specific to transit. I'm not sure that that's something that we will ever see in Napa, but it's something that we could potentially see on I-80 or some of the other highways that we travel on. We also received a presentation on the Ontario, Canada fare card system. And we received a presentation that improves schedule coordination in Switzerland. I think there was general acknowledgement that the only way that we can improve connectivity between systems in the Bay Area is by increasing the frequency so that we can actually pulse with other systems on time. So I'll continue to keep you updated on the progress of the task force. And the next meeting's going to be in Los Angeles next month. So I also participated per Director Garcia on this June 6th State Route 37 Policy Committee meeting. A number of organizations have been added to the original members, which include representation from 4 North Bay counties, Caltrans and MTC. The expanded partnership includes the Yoka Dehe Wuntun Nation. I'm sure I probably just slaughtered that and I apologize. The Federated Indians of the Grayton Rancheria, Congressional Districts 2, 4, and 8, and State Senate Districts 2 and 3, State Assembly Districts 4, 11, and 12. Other organizations have been added to the committee structure in order to aid and expedite decisions to help the project leadership team address some of the more sensitive issues on the corridor. These include federal, state, and regional regulatory agencies. So there's a significant change in the project structure, and we really are hoping that we'll be able to get buy-in and continue to move that project forward. Let's see, project updates. On June 4th, MTC supported by NVTA held a public meeting on the Napa Forward project at the Rutherford Grange located on St. Helena Highway in Rutherford. In spite of the extreme heat, a couple dozen people attended the meeting. We are still taking comments on the proposed intersection priorities, which are a signal at Rutherford and State Route 29 and a compact roundabout at Oakville and State Route 29. Single lane closures on southbound State Route 221 are scheduled for July 19th for up to 12 days to support the Sosco Junction project construction. So probably stay away from southbound 221 during that period. The NVTA, otherwise known as the Notorious Valley Transportation Animals, raised $2,741 for the Napa Vine Trail Coalition's Month of Motion. We rode, ran, and walked 1,332 miles. A special shout out to Director Eisenberg, who joined the team and rode 176 miles. Our fundraising resulted in Vine Trail footprint, which we will be placed near the Redwood Park and Ride, and the footprint will read 1 for the NVTA team.
Awesome.
Events. So NVTA is holding the first accessible transportation needs assessment, public workshop on July 8th and it will be here from 3 to 6 p.m. The workshop will be an open house structure and we'll be able to visit, participants will be able to visit multiple stations and learn about local transportation options and be able to provide feedback on services, ask questions. A formal announcement about the workshop will be distributed this week. And then on August 16th, the ribbon cutting to celebrate the opening of the Calistoga to St. Helena Vine Trail project has been scheduled. The Vine Trail Coalition has scheduled a pre-event ride from St. Helena to Calistoga beginning at 8:30. As well as lunch following the event. It should be noted the lunch is not open to the public and the agency is not funding the lunch. The Vine Trail Coalition is also organizing a public event or a day of festivities on August 17th. So mark your calendars for August 16th at 10:30 where we will be cutting the ribbon for that project. And there's no one probably more thrilled about that than Grant, but he's not here right now because he's running around from project to project. So let's see, we have ridership numbers in on Bottle Rock and Leonda. They were mostly for Bottle Rock, mostly flat this year. We did see an increase of about 160 riders overall. And most of that were because of the special hours that we created. So it just goes to show that if we have the resources to extend our hours and increase our frequency, that we're going to get more riders. The Leonda, I think, is really interesting because those numbers show a lot more riders given the fewer participants at the concert. So at Bottle Rock, there was 5,610 riders, and at Londa, which I think was less than half of the attendance, was about half that. So I think it was kind of interesting to see. Also, the same thing, sorry, total 224, the same thing happened an inverse on bike parking. We got some numbers from the Napa Bike Coalition. So 900 bikes were parked during Bottle Rock and only 40 during La Honda. So I think it's interesting because I think the La Honda group is younger, so you anticipate more bikes, but actually it just shows that younger people are willing to take transit too. So, and then Moody's Investment Services has reiterated its investment grade credit opinion of NVTA following the Standard and Poor's credit rating, which I reported to you probably two meetings ago. So that's good news. It's an A- rating. And then this is the last of it, coming to the end. Please join me in congratulating Laura Sanderlin, who has been promoted to Assistant Manager, HR Board Secretary. Laura has been with NVTA since October 2020. She has demonstrated her acumen time and time again, navigating challenging issues like the pandemic and developing creative programs and processes that support the agency's vision. Congratulations, Laura. It is a well-deserved promotion.
Absolutely. I'll give it applause for that. Thank you, Laura.
Also join me in congratulating Danielle Schmitz, who has been promoted to Deputy Executive Director. Danielle has been with the agency for 16 years, starting as a part-time staff person, service analyst in conjunction with managing the Green Business Certification Program with the County of Napa. So she was part-time here and part-time at the county. In 2011, Danielle was promoted to Associate Planner, only to be promoted again to Senior Planner just 2 short years later. In 2017, Danielle was promoted to Director of Planning and Capital Development. In this position, Danielle assumed the responsibility of overseeing the transit system, planning, and project development. Danielle has become a master of project funding, both securing new funds, but also identifying creative ways to move funding around to various projects in order to optimize funding benefits and virtually eliminating the loss of scarce funding due to project delays. Danielle has also built strong relationships with our partners in Napa Valley and throughout the state, and continues to enthusiastically support the vision and mission of the agency. So congratulations.
Congratulations, Danielle. Also well-deserved. And thank you to our Executive Director for making that possible for Danielle to meet our community partners statewide.
And then finally, last but not least, because I'm not sure if I have an opportunity to talk at the end of this, and I was sort of jumped the gun thanks to Deborah last month, but I just wanted to acknowledge you, Liz, for your service as the chair over the last 2 years, and just being such a strong advocate for the agency. Thank you very much for your
It's
service.
been my pleasure and honor. Learned a lot. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Okay, any questions for our Executive Director? Very full and positive report. Okay, moving on to Caltrans. Do we have a Caltrans update today? Is Amani here?
Yes,
There's
yes.
Amani. Hi,
Yeah,
Amani.
good afternoon, everyone. Just again, good afternoon, members of the board. Just going quickly through the Caltrans report and the project status. There are just minor updates. So currently we have 55 active projects. 2 projects are in the project initiation report. In the environmental phase, we have 9 projects. 2 of them has been updated. So if we can just go to the first one, which is the 4AC80. This project is a pavement rehab in State Route 29 for 7 miles in the American Canyon and County of Napa. We are targeting to complete the environmental phase and approval of the project report this Friday. And the second project, which is 4AC90, this project has been completed the environmental phase. We received the approved project report and signed by the Deputy District Director of Design on June 21. So therefore, to this by next week, next month, this will be moved to the design phase. In the design, there are 9 projects and they are all on track. There's just minor change for the Ritchie Creek bridge replacement to improve fish passage. This is the 4J990 Ritchie Creek project, and the PSNE has been shifted slightly to August after the this fiscal year, and the article is targeted in November 2024. For construction, we have 15 projects, all are on track, and there are one project that has been completed, the construction. This is the widening roadway at Huchika Creek, with the completion of the construction that was end of April. By this, I conclude my presentation and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty, for that update and presentation. I just want to say that in the past meeting, I'd asked you about the sign on 29, that's the overpass at Yountville that recognized the Veterans Home, and that sign has been fixed and it's visible and it's much better. So please pass on my appreciation, whether it be the staff here and your staff for improving that. Are there
Thank
any
you.
questions? Director Sedgley, your light's on. Do you have a question?
I bumped the mic.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Amani, for being at our meeting today and giving that update.
Thank you.
Moving on to our consent agenda items, 9.1 through 9.3. Do we have any items to be pulled? And if we don't, do we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent.
Second, Garcia.
We have a motion by Joseph and a second by Garcia. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Nope, that's unanimous then. Thank you. Our first item, regular item 10.1, this is an action item presented by Libby Payne, pages 197 through 218. The item is professional service agreement number 24-C17 with MIG Inc. for work associated with the community-based transportation plan. Hey, Libby, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Alessio, members of the board, and all of our other guests here today. My name is Libby Payne, here to present item 10.1. I'd like you to imagine for a moment that you live in an apartment complex here in Napa. You've noticed transportation issues around your neighborhood that need addressing, but you don't know where to begin, who to contact, how do I address these issues? That process can feel daunting to many residents to figure out who to contact and make sure that their feedback comes across. Then you learn that the Napa Valley Transportation Authority is coming directly to your apartment complex and holding a meeting where they are giving you a space to be able to address those issues and make sure they show up, and there's a special plan where they will become actionable items. And now you feel seen and heard. Residents all over the county observe transportation issues on a daily basis. Oftentimes, only a select amount of those are able to take those observations and feedback and relay that to elected officials, government employees, and those who can take action. Members of low income and disadvantaged communities may not have the same opportunities to provide their feedback. We want the most vulnerable residents to be able to have a voice in steering transportation policies in their neighborhood and throughout the county. And that's where the community-based transportation plan comes in. This will ensure that census tracts in Napa County with higher concentrations of residents that are disadvantaged are able to provide insight into what transportation issues they experience and what suggestions or improvements they have to offer. So that's why I'm here today seeking your approval of professional service agreement number 24-C17 with MIG Incorporated for work associated with the, I'll call it CBTP for short, in an amount not to exceed $200,000. So what will the CBTP accomplish? It'll accomplish three things: communication, collaboration, community-led effort. So I'll address each of those really quickly. Communication. The CBTP will provide the space and opportunity for the most vulnerable members of our community to voice their concerns and provide their insights that can result in improvements directly in their community, therefore enhancing their quality of life. Collaboration. This plan will bring people together. It will connect stakeholders, government employees, community-based organizations, and most importantly, the residents that experience these issues on a daily basis. And finally, community-led effort. As the name of the plan implies, it is very community-based. Oftentimes when agencies are putting together different plans or projects, when there's an outreach component, that agency may go out to communities and say, hey, we are planning to do this. What do you think? Conversely, the community-based transportation plan asks, hey, residents, what do you think the problem is and how do you think it can be resolved? Let's work together and hear directly from those who experience these issues on a daily basis. So now with the approval of this contract, you're living in your apartment complex and you start to notice, oh my goodness, there are a lot of improvements happening. That bus stop that I noticed that was too far away, they've now added one that's closer. The sidewalk gaps in my community have now been closed. There are now safety measures on the street in order to slow down cars. And that's what the CBTP will accomplish. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Very heartfelt and very clear presentation. I
And
appreciate
just to
that.
clarify, what Libby is proposing that you approve the
Mhm.
consultant contract.
Exactly.
I'm not sure if that got fit into that wonderful presentation, Libby, but
I
well done.
got that. She told us. Yes, we got that. Thank you. Thank you. On that, do we have any questions here on the board? And I see that we have one from Director Doring.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the one submittal that we received. Do you have any comments as to why that happened? And I'm just wondering who the contractor was, the professional consultant that did the prior report in 2020. Is it the same contract, MIG, or is it a different one? And are we losing out there because of a change? I'm just trying to figure that out.
Yeah, so I'll say in general, what we've been noticing with a lot of these planning efforts, we have a lot of plans coming down the pipeline. We're not receiving as many submittals as we did pre-COVID generally. So the fact that we got one wasn't totally shocking. I would have liked to have seen more. This is not the same firm that did it back in 2020. NVTA actually internally did the report back in 2020, and the only contractor they used was a graphic designer to make it look pretty and zhuzh it up. So NVTA was doing all the lead work. But with so many plans coming up, some of us are calling it Planapalooza over here at NVTA. We're gonna be stretched pretty thin, and we feel that by hiring MIG, they can really assist with these outreach efforts of going out into the communities.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question. Yes, our PCC rep, Deborah Smith.
Hi, Libby, that's so exciting. I'm very excited to hear this. I didn't get a chance to read all the way through the packet, so I apologize if it's in here. Will you be going to mobile home parks? Do you
Yes.
think you have the capacity?
If they are in designated areas
Oh, okay.
that are identified, that's where they've gone in the past as well.
Great.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Director Garcia, you have a question?
Oh.
Okay. I'm not seeing any questions. Director, Vice Chair,
Actually,
and then, okay. Vice
Thank
Chair.
you,
Okay.
thank you. That did pique my interest. So are the identified areas, the one that we see on page 199 in that, the Napa Equity Priority Communities?
Yes, so those are MTC identified areas that meet certain criteria to qualify them as disadvantaged communities, or they call them EPCs, Equity Priority Communities. What our contractor consultant will also be doing is that they'll be looking to see if they can identify any additional census tracts that meet high concentrations, higher than the Napa County's average in certain areas such as elderly, English as a second language, no single car household. So they're going to also look at that and see if there's additional ones that could be identified.
Okay, thank you so much, because I
Yep.
noticed we don't have anything up Valley other than Calistoga. Am I seeing that right?
Yes.
And we certainly hear a lot about issues through our senior population that are in certain areas, and then also our affordable housing. We have two bigger complex.
Yeah.
But they would be missed in this. There wouldn't be any outreach to them.
The consultants go look at the latest data, and if they meet certain criteria and threshold, they'll be included in the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Can Director Shuto kind of follow up with, or maybe staff can make a note of that and ask specifically that the consultant look at those for, see if they can qualify?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. And now Vice Chair.
and I was going to raise a similar issue. There's no identified census tract districts in American Canyon, but we do have an area of mobile home parks with a lot of seniors and low income. So it'd be great if we could identify one in the South County as well.
Sure, we'll look at the data.
Thanks.
Excellent. And we do know, I'm on the Napa Solana Area Agency on Aging. They did a needs assessment for older populations, and transportation for Napa County was #1 on the identified need in terms of to be addressed for that population. And then recently, the county has completed their community health assessment. This was collaboration with Queen of the Valley, their CHA and their CHIP, as Supervisor Gregory knows. And transportation is also within the top 10 of identified needs. So this will be really good. I think that the community-led effort is really the key here, as you so well described. Instead of us having a presumption of what we're going to do and getting that feedback, first listening and then bringing that forward. I think that's a really excellent approach. So with that, let me see if there's any public comment. Not seeing any. Okay, very good. Do we have a motion and a second to approve this item? We have a motion by Gregory. Do we have a second? Second by Shuto. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any nays? Not hearing any, so that pass unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Libby. Moving on to 10.2, this is the Napa Valley Travel Behavior Study Contract Award, and Danielle Schmidt will be presenting this, pages 219 to 238.
Thanks. Good afternoon. Danielle Schmitz here to present item 10.2, the Napa Valley Travel Behavior Study Contract Award. The action before the board today is to authorize the executive director to execute agreement number 24C16 with Resource Systems Group for amount not to exceed $260,000. You can put up that first picture. So if you've ever wondered where drivers on the road are coming from or going to, the above slide depicts the home location of every cell phone that touched the county in a given year in 2018. Only in North America, obviously it doesn't track worldwide, but this is kind of an interesting slide. So this is where the majority of our visitors come from if you look outside of Napa County. This is what we found out in the last travel behavior study that was approved in 2020 by this body. If you go to the next slide, in 2018, the Napa Bel Air Plaza was identified. Oh, next slide. Yeah. The Napa Bel Air Plaza was identified as the most popular destination in Napa County with 23,000 vehicle trips a day, which is 7% of all vehicle trips. Followed closely by South Napa Marketplace and downtown Napa as the second and third most popular destinations with about 16,000 trips. And as you can see over on the right-hand side, where are the origins of the largest trip generators, you will see a lot of it is generated within Napa County to these destinations. So this was another very interesting piece of information that we received from our last travel behavior study. And obviously, as we know, the concentration and density of where the largest trips are, it will help us deploy transit in those areas and other transportation improvements in those areas to help with mode choice and overall circulation. Next slide, please. Another useful data point from the last travel behavior study is that 63% of all trips in Napa County are 5 miles or less, and 31% are 2 miles or less. So these trips lend themselves to alternative transportation modes like walking and biking. And so this data point was also very interesting to us. So all the data from the previous travel behavior study was pre-COVID. Again, it was 2018 and 2019 data. It was a conglomerate of cell phone. We actually captured vehicle license plates to do the origin and destination at key destination or key entry and exit points throughout Napa County. And so what we are doing with this travel behavior study is we're updating this data to compare it to a post-COVID environment. You know, how are people getting around? Are they visitors, workers, students? What has changed? And so the data generated in this report will help feed a lot of different planning studies that we do. We're very excited to kick this off, and the selected proposer is RSG that we're recommending that the board approve. today with this contract approval. So staff is asking the board to authorize the executive director to enter into contract with RSG or Resource Solutions Group in amount not to exceed $260,000. We will be providing periodic updates of this information to the board over the next year, and then we will have a final report with all the data that will be provided to the jurisdictions and to this body in spring of 2025. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the travel behavior study.
Thank you, Danielle. I see we have a question from Vice Chair, then we'll go to Director Gregory and then Director Doring. I'll look to my left.
Yes, thank you for the report, and it is exciting information to get a hold of. Are you working with Visit Napa Valley, since they might have a vested interest in knowing where people are coming and going?
Yeah, so actually in the former two travel behavior studies, we did look at, they do visitor kind of intake survey. So we've looked at that information before, and we've actually worked with wineries. So in the first two iterations of the plan, we did vehicle counts at specific wineries. Now, because of the technology, I don't think we need to do that, but we will definitely inform the study with any information out there. You know, the census household travel survey, any information that was put out by Visit Napa Valley or another hospitality group.
Okay, Director Gregory?
Same question. Visit Napa Valley puts out every 2 years a visitor profile in conjunction with their economic impact study. Tells us how many people are coming to Napa and where they're coming from. So it's super helpful for us, the county level and everybody. So I would just, ask that we're working with them,
Yeah.
sharing information.
Yes, and we've shared the previous information that we had, and we worked with them because, as you can imagine, some of the wineries and hospitality locations were nervous about sharing information about how many visitors they get a day and those kinds of things. So we are cognizant of that and sensitive to that.
Thank you. Director Doring?
Thank you, Chair. I guess I have a fundamental question, two questions. Who did the last study and why was RSG chosen for this study?
So the last study was done by Fair and Peers, but a lot will depends on project staff. And so RSG has the project manager that we used in the last study, Fair and Peers, Kevin Johnson, who's an expert in a lot of this data. He went over to RSG. I think that was kind of the winning component of their proposals. They were very similar in the type of work that they were going to do, the data sources that they were recommending. The one proposer that we didn't go with had this is getting more into the technical weeds, but the base data, they were kind of married to the base data provider, where Fair and Peers and RSG are not married to a base data provider, and so they are able to use multiple different data inputs to get the best information that we need for the questions that we're asking.
How about the cost factor?
The cost factor, so RSG was slightly, I think, higher than Fair and Peers, but it wasn't, I think the value of RSG was the best, and they were pretty comparable.
I think for me, at least, I think it maybe a brief narrative paragraph in the future about what thought process the staff is going through when there's 3 or 4 or 5 applications be very helpful. The information you gave was very helpful, but it would be nice to have just a little brief chart to I guess, to hold ourselves accountable and be more transparent to the public with respect to how we make a determination, especially when a bid is higher and we're going to go with that higher bid.
Right.
But thank you for the information.
Yeah. So a lot of times with planning contracts, it's not like lowest bidder. We have to look at the value. We have to look at the personnel on the job, which is huge for projects like this for project manager and technical expertise.
Thank you, Director Doring. I think that's a really good point. I really appreciate that.
And I just would add that in terms of pricing, that the various contracts that we award have different statutory assessments of what we can do and what we can't do. With planning, the cost of the contract is something that we include as part of our scoring. With engineering, we can't use it at all as a factor. And with construction contracts, we have to award the lowest bidder that's responsive. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And looking to see if there's any other questions. I'm not seeing any on my left and nobody on my right. Do we have any public comment on this item? Not seeing any public comment. Okay, so we're ready for a motion and a second to approve this item.
Move to approve Garcia.
We have a motion by Garcia. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Joseph.
Second by Joseph. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any nays? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Danielle. We are at 10.3. This is our federal and state legislative update. It's an information item, pages 239 to 263, and our executive director, Kate Miller, will provide this information.
Thank you. I'm going to skip on the federal one. There really isn't much substantive information for me to share at this point. The bill that we sponsored, AB 2719 Wilson, was to help us work with CHP to identify an alternative way rather than stopping our buses at the weigh station for inspection. Unfortunately, during the hearing, CHP provided a report that was not very flattering, elevating the number of infractions that we've never heard of. And so the bill did not get out of committee, and it's basically not moving forward right now. The CHP did tell the legislature that they're willing to work with us on an alternative approach rather than stopping us during service hours, revenue service. So I'll keep you posted on that. It was a little bit disheartening. Let's see. Big news, and I think you all have to be sleeping to have not heard this, but on June 21st, the California Supreme Court made a decision that blocked the initiative known as the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act, which was led by the California Business Roundtable. The Business Roundtable was pushing to require all taxes to receive a 2/3 vote, which triggered a lawsuit from Governor Newsom and legislative leaders, as well as a counter initiative. So the initiative would have made it more difficult to raise taxes, requiring the legislature to seek approval from voters for any new or higher state tax. It would also have raised the voting threshold for local voter-initiated special taxes from a simple majority to 2/3 majority. It also altered the accountability to governments on how fees are applied. So the Supreme Court decided that it was not constitutionally legitimate and is no longer moving towards the voters in November. So that's great news for all of us that, I recognize that we do need revenues to do the work that we do. ACA 10 would amend the content of ACA 1. You'll remember that that is a constitutional amendment that would have reduced the voter threshold for special sales tax to 55%. ACA 10 actually eliminates the application of that 55% for special taxes such as transportation-related taxes. We did frame Measure U in a way that acknowledges that a supermajority would need to pass that measure. So we're in the clear on anything that ACA 10 would do to alter that. It added an expanded, ACA 10 added an expanded definition of affordable housing programs, revises the definition of public infrastructure, and cleans up some of the language that ACA 1 had in it. So the legislature is expected to pass that sometime, I think, before the end of the legislative session. The legislature is expected to pass a budget bill tomorrow before the statutory deadline to pass the budget, and is expected to be signed into by the governor on Monday. It addresses a $46.8 billion shortfall in the next fiscal year and a $29.8 billion shortfall expected in fiscal year 2025. The budget restores the $4 billion remaining. This is a commitment to address the transit fiscal cliff. The governor earlier had imposed a spending freeze for one-time expenditures, and it's still unclear how this will affect transit funds. Sorry about that. The budget also restores $600 million in active transportation program funds, but about $400 million of that would need to be appropriated. And so if there isn't any revenues, that money might not come to fruition, at least in this 2 fiscal years. And the memo from Platinum does provide a bit of a silver lining, that personal income for the month of May was up by 1.4 billion over projections, and corporate taxes were up 752 million above projections. So if that trend continues, I think we're going to be okay on the transportation side. And that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? I don't see any questions, and this is information only, so very good. Item 11 is a closed session. And I guess we will go ahead and go to that. It's now 2:01. So I guess all who can't be in here during this closed session, we
Right.
will see you in July. And thank you for being here.
The board will now meet in closed session on the items agendized 11-1, 11-2, and 11-3.
So I've asked Danielle and Tony to